Hello, everyone, and welcome to Caregiver Chronicles. My name is Sarah, and today I'm here with Ajmer D, who has worked in a COVID shelter and also started a campaign to help people get vaccinated for COVID-19. Ajmer, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Ajmer D. I am a peer support worker working in a COVID positive shelter since the pandemic began. I'm also an elementary school teacher. I've been teaching for the past 15 plus years as a elementary school teacher. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Would you like to talk about why you started working in a COVID shelter or what got you there?
Absolutely. So we ended school in March, and basically uh, just like everywhere else in the world, we were forced to isolate and quarantine. And March, April, by the time we got to May, I just watching the news every single day and just seeing how dire the situation was becoming. I felt like I can do more than just sit at home and isolate. So I started to seek out a position working in the front lines, and I ended up taking a position working as a peer support worker in a COVID positive shelter in Toronto.
Oh, wow. That's very brave of you to do that. So what kind of things did you do?
So a peer support worker is someone who has lived experiences or has a sense of understanding with the client. So communal client experience. So our clients are majority are homeless, or as we like to say, unhoused. We also have a refugee population as well. And basically these were clients who contracted COVID, but didn't have anywhere safe to isolate. So the city of Toronto leased out a number of hotels across the city for COVID positive clients.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing.
Yes, and so my responsibilities were we were our responsibilities. We had three different departments in the shelter. So we had the peer support workers, and our responsibility was to ensure their day-to-day needs, whether it was taking them. So let me just rewind.
That's okay.
In a COVID positive shelter, the movement of the clients and everyone working is highly managed and structured. And the reason being is because we wanted to keep social distancing, but we also wanted to separate the building so everybody was safe. And we followed what's considered here IPAC policies. On IPAC policies, I don't know if you have the IPAC in the United States, but it's just how do you structure a building for it to follow safety regulations. And so clients had their own rooms, and all their needs were met. So whether it was food, snacks, we brought it to them. Whether it was they needed to go for a smoke, we took them down for a smoke. Whether any needs they had, we as peer support workers help them. But in addition, we were also, we were also encouraged to build relationships with the clients. It's being isolated is such a lonely experience for them. So as peer support workers, we built relationships. We social emotional well-being was also our priority for them, just for them to feel not only welcomed but also less isolated from this entire experience. And that for me, the relationship part was the most rewarding, and it's something that has stayed with me in many ways. And that's actually where uh, my advocacy came for, to build this website I built, was this hashtag vaccinated, which is, I don't know if you can see my t-shirt.
Yes.
Yeah. I basically built a website to sell t-shirts, but also build awareness for vaccine equity. And also, through the t-shirt, celebrate our communal experience of being vaccinated. and part of the funds from the t-shirt go to organizations that are supporting frontline workers, but also those who are greatly affected by the pandemic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Your whole story is just super incredible. I never really, I'm in the United States and I never really considered like what or how this would affect the homeless population in our country. I was too busy worrying about, my kids, getting myself to work, taking care of my residents. So, that's a whole demographic of people that I really didn't think about. And that's just amazing what you did in building the relationships. Have any of those relationships lasted? Have you been able to help?
Okay, so one of the what's really important for the clients is to keep client confidentiality. So my interactions were really limited to the time they were there. But we had clients there for 14 days up to 28 days, and you spend your entire time with the clients. Like
Yeah,
that was our responsibility. We spent a copious amount of time with the clients, and when you're there for 8-hour shifts, you're exchanging life stories, you're having conversations, and I've learned so much about their struggles, but also their successes. And in addition to selling the t-shirts, I've also created a blog on the website called Humans of the Pandemic, where I share my stories from the shelter, because I think just like you said, is that my experience is unique in the sense is that it's not everyone's experience. Most people, their responsibility was to take care of their families and make sure their needs were met, and that in itself is heroic. It's so commendable how parents all over the world were able to find ways to meet the needs of their children and their families as a whole. And so I take it as a responsibility to be able to share my story with those who weren't are not able to experience what I experienced.
yeah. No, and I really appreciate that. This is incredible. I'm just like amazed by what you did and how you stepped up. Thank you. You're a hero.
Oh, well, that's so kind of you to say,
You
but
are a real hero, like a real superhero. Like you deserve a cape.
I'll take a cake.
A cake, not a cape.
I'll,
Okay.
yeah, I'll take a cake. No, all jokes aside, you asked me why did I do it. I did it for my own mental health. I really did do it for my own mental health. I'm compelled to go towards the fire. It's just I had to do it for my own mental health. How can I contribute? How can I make the most of my lived experiences, my professional experiences, my education, to contribute in one way or another, whether it's small or big. I did it for myself, and I can't explain to you. This year, I've I've survived. I've made it through this year because I was working at that shelter.
Yeah.
Because I was working at that shelter, I can't put into words how grateful I am for the experience.
Yeah. No, I'm just hearing what you have to say is just incredible. So again, applaud to you. Now, were you teaching this whole time too?
Absolutely,
Oh my
yes. So,
gosh.
so, so I was teaching. I was teaching. I taught for March up until March 2020, up until June 2021. I taught online. I taught a grade 4 class from September till June of this year. And yeah, it was. That's a whole other experience teaching
Yeah.
online, and just I was so fortunate to have such an amazing group of kids who welcomed the experience, who just acknowledge that this is going to be a different year, and we're going to have our ups and downs, but let's go for it. Let's see what experience it would be. And for me, because they were so open-minded, I was able to try things that I can't try in a school. I was able to explore content and strategies that I couldn't do in school. But having said that, our children, and I'm sure you've seen it as well with your children, they struggled. They struggled. We're not meant to learn through a screen. We're not. We have to have that in-person human experience. Teaching is so much about building relationships and connections that you can only do really in person. And so I saw my students struggle. They had their ups and downs, and some of them contracted COVID. Some of their family members passed away. They had family members that lost employment. On top of learning through a screen, they were also having to deal with the struggles just like everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just amazing. So let's talk more about the vaccine campaign that you're running, the hashtag Vaccinated. What was your
Yeah.
inspiration for that?
So yeah, so my inspiration was a couple of things. Number one, I think the conversations we're having about the vaccine is one front, right? We're having this conversation about whether to get vaccinated or not to get vaccinated. I think it's far more complicated than a yes or no. When we think about why are people hesitant to get vaccinated, we're not asking the bigger questions, right? So when I look at for example, the BIPOC community, the Black, Indigenous, and people of color community, historically there's mistrust with the medical community. When we look at mass sterilization amongst Black and Indigenous women, when we think about in Canada, we have residential schools.
Yes.
And so when we see how residential schools were used for science and medical experiments, so there's an honest mistrust within BIPOC community when it comes to the medicine and the science. And I really think that doctors and scientists have to acknowledge this. Like you have to acknowledge people's hesitancies and mistrust, right? We can't just ask people, trust me, take a vaccine. We have to have the deeper conversations. What is your concerns? That's the first part of it. The second part of my objective with hashtag Vaccinated is to bring vaccine awareness, in the sense that in Canada and in America, we are so privileged to have access to this vaccine. We are unbelievably privileged. The vaccine rolled out in December of 2020. I got vaccinated in January and February. And once I got vaccinated, I did a lot of reflecting on how privileged I am. I'm from Afghanistan. That's where I was born. I'm a refugee. I came to Canada when I was 6 or 7 years old. People in Afghanistan are not getting vaccinated at the rate we're getting here. In the entire continent of Africa, I think it's 3%. And so to have the availability we do to the vaccine, I want to have that conversation that you have the privilege of saying, no, I don't want to have the vaccine. But in most parts of the developing world, they dream about getting vaccinated. So I find that when I have that conversation with people, they start to realize how fortunate they are to have accessibility to modern and revolutionary medicine that the rest of the world doesn't.
Yeah.
And so that's the other part of my conversations and my advocacy for the vaccine is the vaccine equity part of it.
I love it. I think that, I agree with you 100% on, in America and in Canada, we have access to medications faster. I'm with you. I got my first dose in January and my second dose in February. And it was the best day when I found out we were getting vaccinated. And it was like I cried tears of joy.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
It is. It's a relief.
It's an absolute relief. Having said that, I also think, I also think that it's really important that, getting a vaccine. I'm not a like, I've never had the flu shot. I truly believe in herbal medicine for most remedies. So for me to be an advocate is it's not me saying blind obedience, all medicine. No, like we have our complicated relationship with pharmaceutical medicine. Look at the opioid epidemic. Like
Yeah.
there's complex conversations around this. But just from my lived experience, seeing what COVID actually looks like, and you've seen it as well, like how does it manifest in a human being? And to see that every single day, it's to see people that were on their deathbeds, and it affects you. It affects you, right? And so I take it as a responsibility to share my experiences, and if it impacts you, great. If not, I totally understand, because we all have to make this decision on our own, our bodies, our choices, and we have, number one, we have to respect that. Um, but it's important to consume as much information as we can to make the informed decisions. And part of making an informed decision is talking to people who are at the front line,
Yes.
right?
Doctors.
That's where doctors, that's where you and I and people like us and within our field can have the greatest impact if we have conversations within our own ecosystem, within our friends, within our families, within people that trust our opinions. That's where we can have the greatest impact.
Yes. Yep. No, I definitely agree. Anybody who's hesitant on the vaccine should absolutely talk to their doctor about their concerns and not get their information from Facebook memes. Um, I've I've seen some really questionable Facebook memes on
Yeah, absolutely.
for vaccine
And
hesitancy, and it's, speak to your doctor.
speak to your doctor, speak to people that you trust that are within that field. But going back to what you said about the memes and the impact of social media, from my educational lens, I think it also speaks to how little we teach critical thinking within our school systems, right?
Yeah.
This has been for me, just looking at it from my educational lens, this has been a great example of how much more we have to focus on soft skills and less on content, right? Within our education systems, both in Canada and the United States. So people have the necessary tools to deconstruct information and ask the bigger questions.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's all connected. It's all interconnected.
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to tell my audience, or where they can find you, where they can get more information on #vaccinated?
Yeah, you can find my website, vaccinated.ca, all words. Please feel free to sign up for my newsletter, where I release regular blogs about my experiences in the COVID shelter. You can also follow me on Instagram, same thing, #vaccinated. And yeah, check out the site. Let me know what you think. Greatly appreciated.
Okay. Ajmer,
Yeah,
is it okay if I add your website into our show notes?
100%.
All right, great. I would love to do that and support your mission. And with that, I'd like to thank everyone for listening this week to this episode of Caregiver Chronicles, and a very special thank you to our guest Ajmer, who's got a very interesting story. Below, I will link in the show notes his website, #vaccinated, for you to check out. And you can find Caregiver Chronicles on almost any listening platform. We are on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora, Google, Apple, Stitcher, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Casts, TuneIn Radio. We're on almost every platform you can listen to us on. We're also on YouTube, but we have most of our episodes are older, being uploaded to YouTube. But please feel free to check those out if you want to go back through our catalog and listen to earlier episodes of Caregiver Chronicles. You can reach us at caregiverchroniclespod@gmail.com. We are CaregiverChron1 on Twitter, Caregiver Chronicles 2 on Instagram, and Caregiver Chronicles on our Facebook page. So please reach out to us. Let us know if you have any questions, concerns, or anything like that. And we hope you have a lovely day. Thank you for listening.